right, welcome everybody to 10 Useful Tools and Tactics for Strengthening Your Communications Work with Jeremy Kaplan. I'm Greg Brecky. I am the Executive Director of the Associated Church Press, and we're glad you're here. We're going to give a few seconds for people to begin joining. That's how it happens. A few people come on right at 10, or I guess it's 1 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock here Pacific, but 1, and we'll just wait for a few attendees to join in. I see the numbers rising. As we do that, just want to recap what we've done so far. We had an opening plenary with the Dr. Larry High Jr., and he encouraged us in our ways of communicating and to look at new ways of communicating, and telling stories was his primary objective for us. And obviously that's the work we're in, telling stories. Whether you're a journalist, you're a PR person, you write marketing material, you're telling stories and engaging people in things that you find interesting. The next session was this morning with the Fetzer Institute, where they looked at new models of engaging and really opened up a lot of ways, especially in interpersonal communications, and in this farther we go down the line to even broader church communities or faith communities, bringing people in. And then today we're looking at 10 useful tools. And before we begin that section, I'm going to share our opening screen. Jeremy, I'm just going to bump your screen out for a second. Sure. Nothing personal, but we'll do that. And just to invite people into opening new portals, building community. And again, I want to emphasize that this is a collaborative effort, not one group, but the Associated Church Press, the Canadian Christian Communicators Association, and the Religion Communicators Council together brought this whole conference to you. We are using the Whova platform. I just want to mention that before we talk about our sponsors. The Whova platform is where we want you to do your chats and your Q&As. Please refrain from chatting and entering Q&A on Zoom. We do have to transfer that back and forth. If you do enter it in Whova, we have a record of it. We can go back, and as you come back to look at any screens or titles, or even the preview or review of this presentation, all that Q&A, all those chats are there. So please refrain from entering chat and Q&A information on Zoom, and rather put it in Whova. So start with our title sponsor, Fetzer Institute. They gave us a presentation this morning. That presentation will be live sometime this afternoon once all the video starts or finishes processing. Our gold sponsors are the American Baptist Home Mission Societies, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Shanley and Associates. Our silver sponsor is the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, based in Indianapolis. Our bronze sponsors are the Mennonite Disaster Services, Sokagaki International, and Worship Times. Our community sponsors are the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada and Polaris Nonprofit Solutions. Our in-kind sponsors who helped us promote this event are Broadview Magazine, Janice Van Eck, who did all of our graphics, and the Christian Recorder. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Maria Magallanes of the RCC to introduce Jeremy Kaplan.
Thanks, Greg. I'd like to thank all of those who can make it today. And I'm pleased to introduce your workshop leader for 10 useful tools and tactics for strengthening your communications work. Jeremy Kaplan is the Director of Teaching and Learning at CUNY's Newmark Graduate School of Journalism in New York University, where he works on ways to help strengthen teaching and improve students' learning experience. He also leads the school's new Entrepreneurial Journalism Creators Program, a 100-day online-only curriculum for independent journalists around the world. As a reporter at Time Magazine, Jeremy wrote about digital innovation and some of the world's most creative people and companies. After studying public policy at the Woodrow Wilson School at Princeton University, he earned an MS in journalism as a Knight Bagehot Fellow at Columbia University and an MBA at Columbia Business School as a Uyghurs Fellow. Before he was an educator and journalist, he was a violinist, serving during that period as concertmaster of the International Symphony Orchestra in Jerusalem. He lives in New York with his wife and 2 young daughters, where he writes the Wonder Tools newsletter, sharing the tools he finds most useful for productivity and creativity. And without further ado, I now turn the time over to him.
Great. Thanks, Maria. And thanks, Greg. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today with all of you virtually through this box that you have in front of you and I have in front of me. And I'm hoping to make this session as useful as possible for you and enjoyable and exposure to some new tools that I find really useful and that other journalists and communicators find very useful in their professional lives. And I hope you'll come away with at least one thing that you can use and enjoy in the work that you are doing in the week and weeks and months ahead. So I will just start with a little bit of what our focus is. These are 10 useful tools and tactics for strengthening your communications. If you're a journalist, that means creating stories that are visually engaging, creating communications with colleagues as you're working on projects in an effective way, and just working independently on the work that you do, the researching, the reporting, the writing, the producing, the publishing, the presenting, all of the different things we do as journalists and as communicators in a variety of different related fields. That's what I'm focused on. And I'm focused on specific tools and tactics for doing that. And I'm going to do so by showing you a set of 10 tools that I've selected for today, and then introducing you to a whole range of others that you can explore further if those interest you. My modus operandi is to show you what the tool is, talk a little bit about how it's useful, why it's useful, and what you can use it for. And I'll try to include examples as we go. And along the way, I welcome your questions and your input. You're probably using tools that are similar or maybe different than some of these. Maybe you're using these exact tools. It would be great to have your input in terms of what you're using them for, if you're already using certain tools, or if you have questions, interject them as we go in your chat, and I'll try to address those as we go. And you can also ask any questions about anything related to what we're talking about. The tools that I write about on a weekly basis are some of the source of the ones I'm selecting. I have a newsletter that's free. You can sign up for if you're interested in getting more info about these tools that I'm going to talk about briefly. It's wondertools.substack.com. It's pretty easy to read and catch up with these things as we go. And the tools that I'm talking about today are ones I've written about, so you can dig deeper beyond the summary that I'm giving today on these things. If you want to play along, by the way, feel free.
Greg, briefly, I just want to see if you can, on your viewer box that's on the right-hand side of your screen, if you could possibly click the smallest button there, which is, I think, minimize or
Yes.
hide. Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, if you could move that down to the lower right-hand corner or something. Oh, there you go. It's gone. Good. We were seeing it on the main feed, and yep. that answered our question from earlier. So thank you.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, and feel free to let me know if the questions are coming in as we go. So feel free to play along as we go. Also, I'm going to be showing these tools. If you're at a computer, you're at a phone, you want to explore these things, feel free to do so. Dive in as we go. Make this as hands-on as possible. Here's an example of a tool I just wrote about this week. So that's where the source of these tools is coming from, is my weekly newsletter and the research I do. And some of that is experience as a journalist. So I worked at Time Magazine for a long time, as you've heard, writing about business and technology. These are the three most important things in my life: my family and my teaching, along with my journalism. So that's a little bit about who I am. And I've always loved tools. And if you see a daughter coming in, I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. They may be coming through my door, but I think we're okay for now. This pandemic has been an incredible year, and so stark a year. We went from a year ago being in an entirely different world to being in a new one now. I won't belabor this point, except to say that it's been a source of massive experimentation for people creating content and distributing content and communicating with one another, because we have to do all of this now through the screen, as you all know, because you're doing that today. So that's the background for the importance of this. These tools aren't just fun things. They're not just cool and neat little gizmos. These are now at the core of the work that we do as communicators. So a lot of the work we do is about creating the right message, right? Designing, developing, conceiving the right message. But to get it across, to convey something effectively, we have to have the right tools to organize that information, to gather that information, in some cases to find that information, to distribute that information. So that's why these tools are so important. And that's what the focus of this is. So I want to just invite you to share just a quick kind of warm up. I know we're mostly all business here, but I want to give you the chance to just share something you're looking forward to about this coming year. It could be something professionally, a project that you're working on that you're going to try to hit out of the park, do a really great job on. It could be something personally that you're creating, so that you have something in mind that you will be able to apply these tools to a project that you might be working on. So you can, to follow this, to fill in this poll, you can go to slido.com and type in the code 3913. It should be nice and simple. And you'll see those start to populate on this screen here. You can also just point your phone at that QR code. That's another easy way. If you open the camera app on your Android phone or your iOS phone and you point it at the screen on that QR code, it'll take you right to the screen where you can answer this question. So you just point it right at that, open up your camera app, point it there, it'll open up a little browser, and you can type in your answer if you find that easier than going to that URL and typing in the code. Either way. Okay, so I see some people are looking forward to grad school. Others are looking forward to socializing once again, traveling, spending time with family, relationships that maybe have been distant relationships, kissing my grandson. I would love to see my parents. I have not seen in a year, more than a year now, and they have not seen my daughters, so I can relate to that. I see grandchildren here, seeing family. Travel is at the core here in this word cloud. Air, yes, getting out there and being able to walk and going to concerts. Yes, I see concerts, doing in-person meetings. I would love to be here with you all in a room rather than just on a screen, so I can totally relate to that. There's definitely a huge benefit to being able to gather in person. So normalcy, I see here, a lot of things people are looking forward to. One thing I want to point out, and it's sort of a meta way here at the moment, we're looking at a visual. Right? I could have just written this information, or you could have just written, and we could have had a laundry list. But a word cloud is an example of a visual that conveys a lot of this information visually in an efficient way. And hopefully you're seeing that on your own screen as you enter these answers. You'll see the answers on your own screen. Those of you who've answered this, and those of you who are just watching the collective screen will see this word cloud, right? And it shows the importance of travel to everyone in this context of this question. So that's the first point I want to make, is just that visuals are hugely impactful. Many of us as journalists or communicators think that we are not professional designers. People will say, I don't know Photoshop, or I don't know InDesign, or I don't know how to use Figma or any of these new tools for designing professional visuals. And my feeling is we are all in the business of communicating, and it is now easier than it has ever been for any of us, regardless of our training, to create simple visuals that communicate effectively. So a lot of what I'm going to share with you is about creating and organizing information and distributing and producing information that can be conveyed with visuals, whether it's graphics, whether it's tables and spreadsheets that are visual, whether it's small graphics that can be embedded into articles or into emails or into presentations or however else you're communicating. Okay, so I'm going to move on from this, and we may come back to a subsequent poll as well, but I want to move on for now. Thank you for your participation in this. I may invite you to join a follow-up poll toward the end again. There's one more poll here I want to invite you to participate in, which is, what's one tool that you found especially useful lately? So what is one thing? You should see it on your screen now. If you responded to the prior question, it could be an app that you rely on for your work. It could be a site that you find really useful for producing, organizing your work, keeping track of your work, distributing things efficiently to people. It's really a resource that you find particularly useful and that you think others might benefit from being aware of, or just might want to share with people. Okay, hopefully that question is clear. So you're going to get tools from me as we go, and I'm going to give you a digital handout shortly that you'll be able to use in this session as well as afterwards. But I also want to give you a chance to share with each other. So I'm going to, in a moment, I see about 10 people have responded already. So I will open up now to show you what some people are saying. So Google Docs and Sheets, River, Canva, Restream, another vote for Canva. So that's one I'm going to share today a little bit about. Basecamp, FreePick, lots of good tools here among your colleagues. Basecamp is for project organization. Google Docs and Sheets, I'm sure many people know. Canva is for design. Dropbox is for organization. Paper Agenda, I'm a big fan of Paper as well. Paper and digital is a great combo. Mailchimp, that's an email distribution platform. It's very efficient for marketing, although I moved on to Substack recently for reasons I'm happy to expand upon if anyone's interested in that. Not going to say Zoom. Someone says Slack is great for efficient communication. Riverside.fm. So lots of audio, new programs for audio I've developed. Microsoft Teams, WhatsApp, Trello. So lots of tools out there. And everyone has different tools that they find particularly useful. So one message I want to convey at the moment is that the tools that I'm going to suggest to you are a menu of ones that I've found useful, and I'll show you how I found them useful. But you should pick one that's of relevance to you. So I want you to just take away one tool that I offer you today to experiment with, to dive in further. You'll have the handout, as I said, to dig into, so you can explore on your own time the examples and the use cases that I'm offering. And the takeaway should not be, oh my gosh, there's a million tools and I can't keep track of them all. That's not the message. The message is just try one new thing. Build your toolkit, right? People are used to, with recipes, finding one new recipe periodically. They don't say, oh my God, I can't do all of the recipes in the cookbook. No, they just say, oh, that's a new recipe. Let me try that out. So take that same approach with tools. Don't worry about getting overwhelmed. I'm going to show you a bunch of things and mention a bunch of things. Just take away one. Just take away one that's useful for you, and that'll be a productive follow-up impact for this. Some people, as I said, feel overwhelmed, and that's not what I want you to take away. I want you to take away one thing. So that's what I'm offering you. Okay, so here's the link, and I'm going to type it in the chat so that you can have that as well. You can refer to this as we go if you'd like, if that's useful for you, or you can wait till the end and then look at it on your own. It's simple, RCC 10 tools, and there's bit.ly before that. So bit.ly is a link shortener, as you're probably familiar with. So I don't have to give you a 50-character URL or web link. It's bit.ly.com/RCC10tools. Okay, hopefully nice and clear, and you'll have that in the chat as well. It has the links, it has these slides. It's even got a bonus set of tools that you can explore if you'd like even more. And as we go, as I mentioned, just to reiterate, I'm going to be happy to entertain any questions you have. So feel free to chime in with questions. That's often helpful for other folks who have a similar thing that they're wondering about. So the first tool that I'm going to share about is Notion. And Notion is a tool for basically organizing anything that you're creating. So it's a back-end tool for organizing your notes and materials for research and reporting, for example. It's also a note for communicating all of your plans, your to-do lists. It can be used for a whole range of things. It can be used for project management, but I use it actually also for producing pages like the handout that you have now access to. So it's a visual communication tool. It's a visual document tool in a way. It's a kind of turbocharged version of Google Docs, let's say, for 2021. And it's also a publishing tool. So increasingly, it's used for publishing kind of documents, shared wikis, other kinds of resources, both with readers. If you're producing journalism, you can share kind of back-end documents or additional materials, but also with colleagues and teammates. So I'm going to switch the sharing mode now so I can actually share. I'm going to, before I get to Airtable here, I'm going to shift into showing you this handout. Let me stop the share here for a second, and then I'll restart it. I see there's a question also. I'm just going to address briefly before I shift into the next share from Stephanie, who's asking about, why I moved to a different platform than Mailchimp. So I'll keep this very brief. Mailchimp is a very powerful platform for marketing, but it's designed for marketing. So it's got a lot of incredibly powerful metrics and analytics. It's got detailed A/B testing and all sorts of fancy features for marketers. But as a journalist and a communicator, it's not really designed for quick and easy writing. It's not designed for quick and easy editing. It doesn't necessarily give you a WYSIWYG view of what you see is what you get view of your writing. And it's overly complicated, in my view. So that's my main reason. It's also not free. So Substack is completely free to use for creators, for journalists, for communicators. You don't have to pay a dime. The only way they make money is when you start charging for your newsletter. So if you do charge for your newsletter, they will take a 10% cut, which I think is eminently reasonable for the service they provide. which is great distribution. As of now, my newsletter, I don't pay a dime because it's free. So any of you can subscribe. It's completely free for you. It's completely free for me. And so I like that. And I like the ease of use. And it has some, variety of different kinds of features. Like you can use it for podcasting as well. It has some other benefits, but the main feature is that it's just free and super easy to use and well designed for simple email delivery. It also, by the way, has a better email delivery rate in terms of spam than some of the other email service providers, ESPs. But we don't have time to go into that level of detail at the moment on this. Okay, so I'm going to now shift into my handout version so you can see a little bit more about some of these tools, and I can show you some more examples. And thanks for that question, Stephanie. And if any others have questions along the way, feel free. I'll share my contact info at the end. And if you don't get to answer if I don't get to answer your question today, I'm happy to answer it by email later as well. So I'm going to share screen again. And now I'm going to show you a version of the handout. So this is going to be, instead of showing you just slides throughout, I want to actually show you the stuff in action. So I've built this with Notion, so you can see Notion in action. So it's kind of meta here as well. I'm showing you the tool by using the tool. And here is an example of something I like about Notion. It has these little toggles. So I can hide this information, then open it up. And I can include this whole other section, right, that is in this document, but now it's hidden. I can also include a table. So this is actually a table of information, kind of like a spreadsheet. And this is what it looks like as a table. But in this case, I like the gallery view because it kind of gives me an elegant preview of what's inside each of these little sections. So you can think of these as kind of like pages within a large document. But rather than just seeing a long Google Doc with 20 pages of stuff, you see a nice little table with 10 icons for the 10 sites that I'm going to talk about, 10 sites and services. And by the way, with Notion, I can also embed a slide deck or a video. So here's a slide deck. These are the same slides I was showing you earlier, but now they're embedded into a Notion page. So Notion is a sort of turbocharged document. Unlike Google Docs is fantastic. I love it. I've used it, every day for years. However, I can't embed videos. I can't embed slides. I can't embed other visual content other than just static images. So that's why Notion comes in super handy, among other reasons. Like this table view. So organizing information in tables has a number of different advantages. I can click into one of these pages now. So this is part of the table, but it's also a page in its own right. So this is a page I created about Notion, and it explains some reasons why I find Notion useful and what I use it for. It's great for collaborating with colleagues. So we use this within our teams. I work at the Newmark J School, as you heard, the journalism school, but I also work on journalism projects. And when I collaborate with people, it's great to be able to share a document that looks really professional and sleek, and that we can then spin off into other things that we might share with readers. So if we want to share the full notes or the data on something, we can easily do that. And we can always add to this. So this is a living document. Basically it's a website, right? But now I can add something and add to it as we go. And I can use these little commands. So I press the / key, and now I can add all sorts of different things to this. I can mention an existing page. I can add a gallery of images. I can add a web bookmark, a video, audio file, a direct PDF I can embed right in the page. I can embed a tweet or a Google map. There's so many different things I can embed to make this a really visual experience for people. And that's super, super useful. I use loom.com for recording quick videos online, just like a screencast for free. And if I have a Loom video, I can embed that right here. So let's say I'm writing a story. I can say to people, hey, here's a 1 minute behind the scenes of what we did to get this story out to you. So lots and lots of things you can do. I can even embed a little table of contents here. So now I've just added a little table of contents to this document, and I can drag it around, move it around. Let me move it up to the top of the page just to illustrate the ease of use that you have with something like Notion. And this block I want to move down, so I can just drag it down. So it has this nice drag and drop usability. It's just super easy, super flexible. You can redesign things on the fly. So let's say I feel like this, I want this to be a little bit bigger. You see that I'm just dragging out the edges to make it bigger or smaller. So it's super flexible. It's one of the nicest simplest tools I've found for organizing information and presenting information. Let me show you a couple of other kinds of things just to show you how other people are using Notion. Here's one where someone is actually kind of created their whole site on Notion. So this is someone who's basically created a blog and they're just using Notion. They created a table, and each item on the table is its own page. It's basically a blog post. So that's an example of someone using Notion for that. Here's another case, using Notion for lots of information. And this has some images and a lot of text, and they're just using a little bit of color. It's kind of like a wiki or resource, right? This is a remote work wiki. By the way, you have access to all these links, right? With the handout. These are all in the handout, so you have access to all of these. And this is a remote work wiki. You can see that it has nice bookmarks embedded. It has a tweet embedded here, another tweet here. It's just a very elegant way to present information. And a lot of people think that I can't create a website. I don't know how to code, right? Or I don't know HTML. That's for a tech person to do. Well, if you can create a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document, you can create a Notion document. And by the way, you can use Notion completely for free if you're wondering about the cost. I have no affiliation with any of these companies, by the way. I have no skin in the game. I just think these are useful for me and for others that I work with and my students. So you can use Notion for free, completely free, or you can pay, and there's some team features and professional features, but all of the stuff that I'm using it for is completely free, and I use it completely for free. So these are a couple examples of Notion pages and different elements of Notion that I think you might find useful. If it's pixelated, don't worry too much about it. I see a comment on there. You can use the link on your own screen. So you have the handout. You can feel free to explore on your own screen as well. That's a good, simple way to make sure you're seeing it as clearly as possible. Okay, I'm not really showing in detail these things on the screen. I'm just using these as to emphasize what I'm talking about. By the way, in this handout, you'll see videos on these different tools. I've created a couple videos like making your first page in Notion, which is just for beginners. So you can explore that if you'd like. And there's some additional resources like getting started with Notion that I've created, again, as a Notion page. So it's super easy to use, and you'll see how Notion works. And this is an example of, again, a different type of Notion page where I'm just explaining things step by step with some additional links and some use cases. And here's a gallery view. So again, it shows you different ways to present content. I see a question about Notion versus WordPress for blog. So they're very different. WordPress is obviously intended for blog, right? So it has a lot of great features for creating a blog, but it also has gotten somewhat bloated as software. So there's all these different plugins that you have to know about. If you're using professional WordPress, you're going to pay a somewhat significant amount. And it doesn't have the same kinds of features in terms of quick editing and dragging and dropping and document creation as Notion does. So I like Notion in that sense, but WordPress, if what you're doing is creating an organizational blog, WordPress has a lot of features that are designed for that purpose. So it really depends on the specific use case in terms of which is better. But if you're just doing something individually and you want to make it nice and easy, I do think there's some advantages to using Notion. Okay, I'm going to back up now here to this previous page that we're looking at. We're going to move on to the next tool, mindful of time, but feel free to chime in with any questions you have as we go. And I'll just repeat the link for anyone who's joining late or didn't get the link. I'll just paste in here again this handout link that we're referring to. I know sometimes people might have missed that link. So there's that link again. And we're going to move on now to another tool. This tool is called Projector. And this is one that may be new to many of you. It was new to me this year. And it's basically a slide creation tool, but it's also a design tool for creating any kind of visual. You can use it to create social media graphics for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever platform of choice, or just to send in a presentation you're doing with a colleague or a document you're producing with a colleague. You can even produce print posters with it. You can design videos with it. or PDFs with it, if you're creating a PDF report. So I'm going to mention Canva in a little bit, and I'll talk in a bit about how the two differ. But first, just let me show you a little bit about what Projector can be useful for. And let me actually paste this. Let me see if I can grab this. And in case you can't read any of these, yeah, I'm just pasting these some of these things in the chat. These are things you can use Projector for. It's brand new. It's completely free at the moment, by the way. And it allows you to design graphics, but in a very kind of nice way. It's very easy to use, like Canva. And yet it has a wonderful array of just gorgeous templates. And I'll show you one thing I've created with it. I'm going to present this, and let's see. Hopefully this will show up properly on your screen. This is a presentation I created using Projector, and basically just updating one of its templates and adjusting the text. And it allowed me to create this presentation as a slide deck in about an hour or so. I had the message, the core message already designed. It was basically, advertising my program that I direct for journalism creators. It's a program for people around the world who are launching new journalism ventures like newsletters, podcasts. It's a 100-day online only program that we launched this year. And so I wanted to share that with people, and I didn't want to do it just in a document or just in a tweet. I wanted to show them something visual. So I carved out these key messages. What are the 5 or 6 reasons that people would benefit from being part of this program? And I just found a great Projector template and went with it. And what I want to mention here is that not only does the Projector template work really well for slides, but it allowed me to then create an exported video. So this is how I created a 30-second sort of promo video and this was obviously the second version. So this was for our spring cohort that is now running. Basically within that hour, I could create the slides and then also export a 30-second video. So even if you don't see yourself as a video designer or video developer or anything like that, a video creator, you can create a kind of content-driven video. Obviously, these are not original. This is not original video footage. But if it's text-driven message or image-driven messaging, you can create a very simple video or a PDF. So that could be used to create a PDF. I want to show you what the templates look like as well. And just to give you a sense of the different kinds of things that you can create, which can range from traditional slide styles to 8.5 by 11 poster style or vertical images for sharing on Instagram or WhatsApp or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever other platform is your choice. So hopefully you're seeing now these presentation templates. It's got really just gorgeous style, gorgeous design, very easy to use. Here's one about journalism in the digital age, just to give you an example of the kinds of slide style. It's very contemporary, has a very contemporary feel. And you don't have to use all of these. You can pick 1 or 2 that you like, the style that you like. And you can create a graphic out of any one of these slides. So any one of the slides can be exported as an image or as a GIF, by the way. So you can create a short presentation of a few slides and use that to make a GIF. And one of the great things about GIFs is they work in email. They even work in a Google Doc. They work on a website. They work on social platforms. And they're really compact ways of sharing information, and they play automatically, unlike a video. So, so you can use this tool Projector to create a GIF or a PDF or a video or just images, really whatever you want. You can also host it on this site and just send someone a link to the presentation or to the PDF. You see here, you can create a new story with this template. So I clicked that button and now it created a new story. And now what I can do is go in here and edit any of this, right? So I can replace this and I can say, religion news in the digital age or whatever. I can obviously change anything I want. There's a whole nice array of tools that I can use. I can rotate things around. It's very, very easy to use. Just these sliders that allow me to change things. I can change the font super easily to whatever I want to change it to. Let me see here. I'm going to highlight something and then change it to something else here. And I can then back out of that if I want to. I can change the size just by dragging the slider. I love the slider, the ease of use of this. I can just drag the slider and I can add some special effects. This is getting, more sort of designy. Most of the time I wouldn't use that for something like this, but just to illustrate the fact that you can do that. And I can undo anything. I can add fill. I can do all kinds of cool stuff very, very easily with not looking at the menu, not training, figuring out any elaborate thing. I'm just playing around with it. And that's what I encourage you to do, is just sort of explore, and it's very, very easy. And one of the other things that's unique about Projector is that it has a whole range of existing content. So if you don't have your own images or your own video, you can use their library of basically really, simple video footage, simple GIFs, simple images. It has stickers, and you can search for specific kinds of things. So if you have a specific kind of a thing in mind, you can sort of use this sort of database and find images, which is really quite efficient. So to me, this is a very efficient way of creating visuals without necessarily having to spend 10 hours gathering materials and so forth. If you have that time and you prefer to do it that way, that's great. But if I'm pressed for time, in some cases, I want to put something together quickly and efficiently that still looks really good, this is a good tool for doing that. Let me pause and just see if there are any questions on Projector or anything else that I've mentioned so far. You can use the chat to relay any of those questions that you might have, and then I'm going to move on to the next tool. By the way, in this document, this handout, you'll see some additional help links and some other resources that you can explore if you want more detail. Projector is right here. How does Projector make money? Good question. They're still early stage, right? So they're in the process of kind of building an audience, showing how the tool is useful for people, because there's so many tools out there. They have to raise awareness, but they will presumably have a freemium model. Most of these tools have a freemium model, which is to say they give basic usage for free. And then if you're using it with your professional team, then you're going to pay for some additional professional features, basically. So that's how they make money, is by charging businesses who use it. And that's same for all these tools. Notion does the same, Table does the same, Canva does the same. All of them basically have a great free option to get people into it. And then if you the top, extra bonus features, you at some point may have to pay for those. Okay, Airtable is next. So Airtable is a visual tool for organizing data and information. And what I love about it is that it takes something really dry, like a spreadsheet, and makes it something really visual and engaging. And I want to show you some examples of all different kinds of things you can do with Airtable. I'm going to show you my collection of podcasts that I love, some of my favorite authors. This is a collection of games, a collection of journalism newsletters, and some artistic videos. I'm going to just open up these examples just to illustrate that. Projector is completely free, Janice, for now. As of now, it's completely free for everyone. Canva does have an education license. Notion does have an education tool as well, but Projector is completely free for everyone at this point. They may introduce freemium, pricing at some point. So what we're looking at now is an Airtable database I created of my favorite podcasts. And if you're interested in that, as a side note, I'll give you the link here. I'm a big podcast fan. Maybe some of you are as well out there. That's the link to this, so you can kind of see it on your own if you want, and you can explore it to see what the user experience is like when the user is using a Airtable database that you create. And the nice thing about it's kind of like Notion in the sense that you're creating a table that people can view visually, but it has some additional features that distinguish it, which include the fact that I can clip into a database really, really easily. So I'm going to show you that web clipper. I don't know if this will actually come through on your screen or not, but I just click the web clipper button, and this allows me to add into any of the databases I've created very easily. So I can, let's see, add to my, let's say I wanted to add something to my, which one do I want to add to? Let's say I'm just adding it to my I don't know, to my authors list, I can just, it'll automatically pick up the link and I can quickly fill out information and add it to my table. So that's a nice feature. And you can organize things in whatever way you want. So I've organized this by topic, but I could just reshift the table around to use a different criteria. So I could see just the, just the short podcasts. I'm a big fan of micro podcasts, for example, which are just a few minutes long. And I could just see a view of those if I wanted to, or some other kind of view. And it allows the other person to sort as well. So you could sort by, podcast name if you'd prefer, for example, or, as a viewer, you can sort in various different ways. You can download the CSV, you can print it out. So it has a bunch of different features. Let me show you a couple of other examples. This is a book example. So again, it looks similar, actually. This is a similar kind of database of favorite books. These are games that I like. My family's been playing a lot of games. We're isolated, unfortunately. So to keep our kids engaged, we're playing a lot of games and keep ourselves having fun. So this is a table view. And this is pulling in information automatically from a website. So I didn't manually code in all this information. I just created a little clipper for this and was able to grab the information and put it into a table and then make the table public. Here's a list of journalism newsletters. And this just illustrates how I can group things by frequency in this case. I could group them in a different way, but this is a way to sort of organize a list of 100 really good journalism newsletters and a different kind of view. So I'm showing you the different ways you can view information and organize information in Airtable. And then finally, here's an example of something I created at the beginning of the pandemic with an artist. So this allows people, this is a collection of free videos that an artist curated. And I organized a way for people to view it by year, by duration of video, by the maker, etc. And they can just see short videos if you're just wanting something short. And what I added here was a little preview window, which is something that is unique to Airtable, where you can kind of plug in little apps, basically. Like you have apps for your phone, you can have apps for your data. And this may seem complicated to some of you if you haven't used this before, but it's actually really, really nice and easy once you get started. There's a lot of great help resources, and it's a nice alternative to a traditional kind of Google spreadsheet. Within a database, you can have various different tables. So these are different tables by topic, for example, different kinds of videos by topic. And that's a nice way for organizing information. And in a journalism context, to put this back into a journalism and communications context, there's a lot of times where we have data sets we want to give to readers, or we want to give to our audience, or and we want to communicate to people. And doing so in an Airtable allows you to manage the information really easily. And every time you change it or update it, it's automatically updated to the reader. So, so that allows you to ensure that the reader is getting exactly what you get. And that makes it nice and easy for them to get the most updated version. And you don't have to manually update something on a website. You're updating just in your Airtable database. So I'm going to move on to the next tool, and it's the Data Gif Maker. And the cool thing about this Data Gif Maker is that it allows you to create a very, very simple chart, but in a very unique way. So you're creating it as a data GIF. And the cool thing about that is, I'm just checking for any questions or comments. The cool thing about the data GIF is that it's a GIF. So you can, again, share it in any place you can share a GIF. And it's super easy to use. So what I'm showing you now is a couple examples. So these are examples of data GIFs that you can create. This is a completely free tool, and it's made by Google. It's made to be super, super easy. And basically, in this case, the ones I'm showing on screen now, just comparing the popularity of Helvetica and Comic Sans. This was a report from Fast Company. And they just looked at the popular uses of these two fonts. And it's just a good tool for creating a little graphical comparison of something. Right? This could be any 2 or 3 entities you want to compare. And there's a few different styles of these data GIFs that you can use. So in addition to that rectangular style, there's also a circle style, which is kind of like a lollipop style. You can see here's the popularity in the vote in Thailand. And you can quickly see in purple, the pro-democracy parties were getting a lot more votes in this case. And it just gives you a quick visual view of that. I've created a still image of that, so it's not a GIF, just so you can see the interface and how easy it is to use. There's a video I've shared here that you can dig into if you want more help with that. It's super easy to create something with one of these. You just choose your template, whether you want a rectangle, a circle, or this kind of horse racetrack approach. You select whether you want a percentage or a number. Like if it's a vote, you might want to have the percentage of the vote, or if it's a raw number of voters or purchases of something, or people who attend, church or whatever it is, you could use a raw number or a percentage. You can then enter the data points. You add any text, to explain what it is. You choose what colors you want, and that's it. And you save your GIF, and then you can download your GIF. You can, you can get a link to that GIF, or you can download it and then use it in a presentation, in a Google Doc, in an email, any kind of place online, any website. You can use it anywhere you would use a GIF. So that's Google's data GIF maker. And I have a question here about Airtable in conjunction with a website. Yeah, so one of the great things about Airtable is you can absolutely use it in a website. So if we go into here, I'm going to show you. So this is a post that I wrote in Wonder Tools about Airtable, and in here, there's all sorts of examples of how people have used Airtable to collect information and to embed it into websites. In fact, in journalism organizations like Lion, the local online news publishers, local independent online news publishers association, Lion uses Airtable to embed their experts who are willing to help with Lion. And the European Journalism Network uses Airtable to organize case studies of all of the different examples of cool things in journalism. So there's a lot of really cool use cases of using Airtable and embedding things into existing web pages. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that question, Terry. Okay, a few more tools, and then I'm going to open up last questions. The next one I want to share is Google Journalist Studio. So this tool is really fantastic tool for journalists or anyone working with data. It's completely free. It's got a range of different things in it. So one of them that I'm going to mention now is called Pinpoint, which allows you to take any large data set. You can store up to 200,000 documents. So this could be, whatever, a huge trove of documents from the Vatican, or it could be a huge trove of letters written by someone, or a huge audio notes taken by someone over 10 years. You can upload that. And what Pinpoint then does is scans it, automatically identifies the kind of entities, the names, the places, etc. If it's audio recordings, it'll transcribe them automatically for you. And it allows you to then search for stuff that's of interest to you. So you can find common entities that appear repeatedly, people, places, things, organizations, and you can kind of find you can pinpoint documents that are interesting for your reporting. And this can be handwritten stuff, it can be PDFs, it can be really anything that you might be working on or looking through, including handwritten letters or audio recordings. It's really a powerful professional tool, but it can be used for individual projects as well. There's something else called the Common Knowledge Project. This is much simpler for creating just simple graphics. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. It's commonknowledge.appspot.com. These links are all in the handout. Here's the link to this Common Knowledge Project I just pasted in the chat. But you can see here, this is very simple, and you just take any kind of bit of information you want. So let's say I want to have something about New York, and I want to ask about the number of people, I don't know, who spoke Arabic at home. I don't know, No charts found in New York City. So this is looking in other places. Okay, so for the purpose of the example, it doesn't matter what the place is. So now we're getting a simple chart for the percentage of people who spoke Arabic at home, right? Let's choose something else. Let's see if there's something. These are different. These are just some different examples here. The number of households in San Antonio that had one person, and you see a change over time. And you can basically create these different charts, look through different categories that you're interested in, create charts for different places and topics, download them, repurpose the data. It's just a simple way to get started with building charts and information. And once you kind of have a topic you're interested in, you can then hone in, you can compare it to something else. You can look at it as a line chart or an area chart, or look at it over in terms of a map. So now we're looking at people above the poverty level as a map. Obviously that's for 2012. Now we're looking at 2018. And here's the raw data. And you can find, see the source of the data, et cetera. This color scheme isn't great, so I would probably want to adjust that, but that's the gist of this tool. So the Google Journalist Studio has a number of different tools in it. There are a few others mentioned here. Google Trends might be familiar to you. That's in here as well. A data set search is a search box specifically for searching for data, if you're looking for data. So all of these are things within Google Journalist Studio, which is a really, really nice new resource from Google. And if you want to read more about that, here's this link to the post where I wrote more about that in this table. Let me just say a few final words about Canva, and then I'll open up for questions. Canva is an old tool. Many people are familiar with it. A couple of you in the poll at the beginning of this session mentioned that was a popular tool for you, or a tool you like. And so it's not new, but it has a lot of new features, and I just want to call your attention to those. Somebody asked about Mailchimp earlier. Canva now has a plugin to Mailchimp. So you can send designs, you can create your design in Canva and then send it directly into Mailchimp. So that's super useful. It also has a Slack plugin, so you can send things directly into one of your team's channels in Slack, since that was another tool people mentioned here. You can also bring in logos. It has a whole thing called Brand Fetch, where you can quickly search and put a logo into your document, your Canva design, plugs into Dropbox, your Facebook or Instagram photos. It's got a lot of really cool features. I use it now to design pretty much anything where I'm creating a quick graphic or a thumbnail for something, an event cover page. I'll use it for social media graphics, or just to create, an image for a document I'm creating, a new syllabus or anything. There's a desktop version. A lot of people don't realize this. You can download it free for Mac or Windows. There's a new video editor. You can create videos with Canva. You can present with Canva using Canva Live. It's got a content planner kind of thing where you can use it to sort of map out your future content. So it's got a lot of really cool things, and you can use it completely for free. There are some pro features, like some of the professional templates and images, but mostly it's largely free. For those, would there be intro to Canva tutorials you recommend? Yes, I included one actually, Terry, in this handout. So that's what I would recommend starting with. There's a kind of 20 quick tips video I included here. And my post on Canva is also there, which might be a helpful starting point. Flourish is another fantastic visualization tool, data tool that's now owned by Google. It is great for creating all kinds of data into visuals. We don't have time in just this one short session today to get into it in detail, but I encourage you to explore some of these examples that are all created with Flourish. And it's not just, by the way, about charts. One of the things that I want to emphasize about Flourish is you can do things like before and after photos. So if you have two photos of a thing or of a place of whatever, you can use Flourish to create before and after photos. Here's an example of annotations you can add to Flourish. You can create a list of little items and compare them. So you don't need to only use it for static charts. You can also use it for a change over time graphic. a bar chart race, right? And you show things over time and how they've changed as a kind of video. So it Flourish is really, and it's completely free. So Flourish is a great tool for data viz, creating data visualizations, even if you're not professional data designer or anything like that. Last couple ones here, and continue asking any questions, and then I'll be happy to keep answering them, but I'm going to just share the last couple of tools here. Tilda is my secret favorite. This is how I built my own website. It's a site a lot of people don't know about. Everyone knows about Squarespace, but I find Tilda to be easier to use and more polished looking. It's got a wonderful simplicity to it where you can drag and drop modules to just make a website out of a series of building blocks. But the templates that you get are super, super elegant, I find, and make it just really, really easy to use and get started with. And you can start completely free. So what I recommend to people in many cases is to think about building just a one-page site. I call it a microsite. And that can be for just showing what you're up to, or highlighting a project you're doing, or anything for a report that you're writing. And you can do that completely for free. I use it, the paid professional version, because I use it for multiple websites. And it's worth investing in because it's, you know, my professional tool of choice. Tilda, TILDA.cc. It's a website builder. It's for making microsites. TILDA.cc. Coda is another kind of very powerful new tool. It's among the new generation of tools that are kind of the next generation Google Docs. It allows you to create documents that are interactive. So it has some things in common with Notion, but it's a very different kind of interface. And it has all sorts of features, which I encourage you to explore here. In this handout, you'll see some examples of those. It has building blocks. One of the big differences between Coda and Notion is that you can plug in all of these different interactive features. So you can connect it to your Slack, you can connect it to other services you use, and you can allow people to put information into it. So you can have questions and topic voting or other kinds of information that you're sharing in your document. And you can also embed all kinds of other information into it. So I'll show you an example of one I created on the topic of Brahms piano quartets. So I do volunteer workshops about classical music for seniors during the pandemic. And this is an example of one handout I created on the Brahms piano quartets. And you can see it has a variety of different kinds of materials. So there's a PDF here. There's some websites linked. And then you can have multiple pages. So it's kind of like having different website pages. And you can also have videos that are embedded. I'm trying to see if there's a page. I'm not sure what that error is. But you can have videos that are embedded into the page as well. So here's an example of that. Here's a YouTube video embedded right into that document. Okay, I think I'll stop there. And we've looked at a whole range of tools. The last one is Otter, a transcription tool. I'll let you explore that on your own. I want to reiterate the fact that the slides are here, so you can explore them at your leisure. I'll paste in the link again to this handout, and I'll encourage you to explore these tools, and I'll be happy to take any questions you have in our last few minutes here. That's the handout link. So you have access to all of these tools to explore further. Hopefully I've given you some use cases, some examples of how I use these tools, how others use these tools, how you might use these tools. The slides are embedded here. And as a little bonus, I'm giving you a document where I collect a lot of tools that I find useful. And what I've done in this document is put it all on a page. And instead of just organizing it in terms of random links, there's specific things you want to do. So if you want to transcribe interviews, if you want to create a social graphic, if you want to create audio easily, or produce unique photo illustrations, there are tools for each of those purposes that I've specifically recommended, those ones in red in particular. So these are ones that I've tested and I've used myself and I've enjoyed, and most of them are free or very low cost and easy to use. So if there's something that you're aiming to do, you can use this document for that purpose. And you can also use my newsletter for exploring any of these tools and new tools on a regular basis. It's completely free, and it's something I do just to share what I what I enjoy and what I find useful for other people who might find that useful as well. So I'm open to questions and happy to answer any questions you might have. And I'll also put my email address here, and you're free to follow up with me if you have some question. I may not be able to provide tech support on something specific, but if there's some kind of use case question or some other interest you have, or you want to collaborate on something, feel free to be in touch. Here's my email. I'll also put my Twitter in here in case that's a place people like to connect. And I hope this has been useful for you. And again, feel free to ask any questions you have in our waning moments here. And Greg, if you can chime in if there are any other questions that I might have missed along the way.
Why don't we stop sharing and we can see
Yes, thank you.
another. Looking at a couple questions here from the Whova side, and someone asked, is there a chance that the Notion page could be blocked? They don't see it when they go over there. So I don't know if that's, you can maybe look at that. I had
which Notion page are they referring to? Do you know?
I don't see any of the sites when I visit the Notion page. So that was the comment. I didn't go over.
Okay. Okay. That's a good point. So let me just make a point about that, which is to say that Notion is generally, like most document tools, it's completely private by default. So so unless you make something public, it won't be public. And what I neglected to do here in my design efforts was to make that public. So now you should see, as we were speaking, I've just made that public, and I've even allowed for comments. So now if you refresh the page, you should see that you should now see that it's showing you all of those links, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, so thanks for that question, and that allows me to make that point that Notion is private unless you make it public. And even if a table within your public document, if that table is private, that you have full control over your privacy, basically.
One other question that came up over on Whova is, how is the transition function on Google Journalism Studio different than on Otter? And I've only just started my, I'd like to be able to answer that question because I've used Otter, but I have only just started to use the Google Journalism Studio.
Yeah, so the transcription on Otter is really for you to use immediately, right? Like I can take my phone and start transcribing to Otter, or I can put on the browser. One thing I like to do, by the way, is I open up otter.ai on my browser, click record, and then if I'm in a Google Meet meeting or any meeting online, regardless of what platform it is, I can get the transcript and then share it with colleagues, etc. Google Journal Studio is not intended for that use case. It's exclusively for uploading a data set of like lots of old recordings of the Nixon tapes or whatever, or any old recordings you have. So that's what it's transcribing. It's not kind of like a day-to-day alternative to Otter.
Right. Oh, then they said, I see. These are some amazing tools, especially I think as we look at how interactive journalism is changing. I mean, the tools that were there even, I don't know, 3 or 5 years ago for sure, to build, platform specific or integrated communications just weren't there, just aren't as easy as anything that you've presented here. And I think that's a real challenge as we start to look at new ways of publishing. And so,
yeah, I think that's a hugely important point. By the way, in the chat, I put a link to another piece I wrote about a lot of different transcription tools for those who are interested in that. But this is a huge point. I think a lot of people grew up in an era, including myself, when, the video is for someone else to do. Professional video person needed $10,000 worth of gear. The audio people were professionals who did that. And the people who designed data graphics and beautiful visuals, photo illustrations, that was, that's the realm of someone else. I didn't go to school. It's not that world anymore. Any of us can create these things, and it doesn't take that much time, effort, money, or skill. It really doesn't. It does take a little bit of effort, and you have to be willing to, give it a little experimentation at first. But once you get past that initial bit of effort, people are amazed. I've worked with a lot of different kinds of students, a lot of different professionals who come in with very little in the way of digital skills, and they're producing amazing things by themselves. It's incredibly fulfilling. If you start diving in and see what you can create. It's pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. And our main presenter yesterday our opening presenter, Larry High Jr., he's a professor out in California. He basically said to everybody, pick a new tool. And in the next 48 hours, get to know it and see how you can use it in your communications. And now you've given them 10 or more to explore. And so if you were thinking that, Snapchat was your next tool, forget that. You've got some real heavy lifters here to work with. These are great.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the key thing is that the platforms are great for distribution, right? Like Facebook connects you to people, LinkedIn and Twitter and Snapchat, they connect you to people, but you still have to have something to give them, right? You want to have something to communicate. And it's not just words, it's ideas and images and graphics and GIFs and charts. And those are things that really resonate with people. That's what they'll then share. We call them thumb stoppers, right? When they're scrolling around, it's going to stop them and say, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's this idea that I've heard before, but wow, that's a nice visual. Or, and that's really what the coin of the realm is today, is those visuals that grab people's attention and hold their attention. And if you already have the idea, a lot of people on this session have lots and lots of ideas, and they have a lot of know-how and info. So you already have the hard part in a sense. And the easier part at the end is kind of, okay, how can I communicate that visually? And the tools, one of the great things about this generation of tools is that they give you templates. You don't have to create it from scratch. You don't have to envision it. You just kind of look through the templates and you say, well, that one resonates. That one makes sense. That's, the color scheme kind of fits for me, and I'm going to adjust it and then put in my own words, and no one knows the difference, right? It's a template, but you've made it your own and you've customized it. And for all intents and purposes, the audience doesn't care if it's a template or not.
Right.
And most part, they won't know.
Very good. Well, I don't see any more questions right now, but is there anything else you want to, any commendation you want to give us before we leave? I mean, your presentation was full of commendations, but
yeah, I would say just take one thing and explore. Just take one thing and connect it to a project you're working on, right? Because sometimes if you're doing it in the abstract, at least for me, I find it a little bit less useful than if I say, okay, I'm creating my next newsletter issue. I want to create a nice new graphic for that on this or that topic. And then I'll say, let me see what I could do in Projector. Let me see what I could do in Canva. And once you've done it 3 times, once you've created something 3 times with one of these tools, I think that's kind of the magic number. I call it pick, stick, and dig. Pick something you want to play with or explore. Stick to it enough that you figure out, okay, let me try. Oh, I'm not figuring this out. I don't understand it. I can't do this, right? I can't do that. Click the help button, right? Look at a couple examples, try it out, play around with it. And then dig in, a little bit beyond the surface and make 1 or 2 or 3 things with it. And then you're golden. Then you've got a new tool in your toolkit you can use for years to come. So, we don't have one tool in our apartment, right? You have not just a hammer. You have a hammer, you have a series of things that your screwdriver, you're using a lot of different things, right? So, and you learn how to use those. In cooking, we learn how to use different pans and pots and ingredients. Do the same thing with your digital toolkit. Keep refining it, even if it's just one by one. That's my last message.
Absolutely. I think you evangelized and you made a believer for me out of Projector, because as primarily a visual journalist who does photo and video, but also writes a lot, I struggle to how to make that integrated often. And all the various tools out there, and just your quick view of Projector, I'm like, yep, that's it. That's the thing I'm going to try and see how that works for my integrative sort of stories and communication. One other question we did get as we were talking there was Terry Miller says, I work with orgs that have several working languages. Any of the presentation or data visualization tools are which of those work well with content in several languages or switching languages, or being able to do multi-language? Like a lot of the programs now just recognize your native language, and boom, you're put into that data set that is whatever language you're speaking.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's sort of a path in progress. A lot of these tools are increasingly internationalizing, and they're trying to adapt to different languages. Some of them are there, some of them are not. Many of the tools, the visual tools, things like Canva, they accept multiple languages. So you can use them to create content in whatever language you want. If you have a keyboard that produces that language, it'll work. And there are people using them for left to right languages, right to left languages, Hebrew, etc. So they will generally work pretty well. I can't speak as much to the sort of Chinese alphabet. There's some distinctions there for some of the tools where they might not look quite right, or quite the same. But yeah, that's a work in progress. And if you have more specific questions, feel free to be in touch with me offline and we can get into that further.
Sure, and that internationalization is kind of a growing thing, especially on web tools where it hasn't quite gotten to the auto recognition as some of the installed programs do at this point. So to
Yes,
automatically
yes,
switch
yep.
into it.
Yeah,
So
for transcription in particular, it's been a challenge. A lot of the tools are trained on English language, but increasingly there are a few that are now working in German and some other European languages. So that's quickly changing.
right, I just spent a bunch of time in Central America and wish I had a Spanish transcription tool that halfway as well as some of the English ones. So, but it will come. It will come.
Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you so much. This was, the pouring of the bucket of great information. Not too much, but a lot that we can go and explore. All your resources are out there. And sorry, everybody, we're not quite sure what happened with the data refresh on Zoom. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to record this locally, Jeremy, or something, and upload that. But for now, the information is there. You have the resources, the links that you can go and explore, and just absolutely appreciate this deep dive, this just opening up new tools for us to explore and continue this progress of, pathways to new communication tools.
Great. Thanks, Greg. And thanks everyone for taking part today and for the work that you're doing. Have a great year, great day, great week, great year.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. We're going to be back in about 50 minutes with our session on podcasting, the theology of podcasting. And for those of you who are RCC and CCCA members, just remember that your awards presentations are tonight too. So thanks so much and take care. Goodbye, Jeremy.
Bye-bye. Thank you.